My name is Jack Witzman, and just wanted to chat briefly, relate something that I experienced almost 50 years ago, actually 50 years ago next year, when I was a senior in college. That this event took place, I'm guessing it was March or April of 1968, and that was just a few months after the Tet Offensive in Vietnam. In our business fraternity, I majored in business, there was a fellow who was a lot older than we were. He had spent a tour in Korea. He was a heavy equipment, a tank retrieval operator essentially. And he spent 2 tours as an MP in Vietnam. He was within, when this incident happened, he was within, I think, roughly a week or 2 weeks of being discharged. He'd served his time. Well, in the spring we were studying for exams, and apparently nobody knew this event was going to occur. I can't remember the fellow's name. However, when I went to school in Massachusetts, up in the Berkshires, and this guy had a motorcycle with a sidecar, and aside from there being ice on the roads, he would ride it in the snow. You know, it made no difference to him because that was his only method of transportation. So apparently this one Saturday afternoon, we were studying for exams, I'm presuming, tests, whatever it was. We were in the dorms. And unbeknownst to us, this fellow and 2 of his buds were at the local armory, and they had been drinking. Now, again, I guess, you served your time and you're ready to go. So what can I do to me? Well, these guys apparently really enjoyed themselves, and they acquired a deuce and a half, which is a standard, at the time, standard Army transport. It can haul about 2.5 tons of cargo, or troops, or it could be a gun platform. There's a lot of different variations on it. And these guys decided to play a prank on one of the other fellows in the fraternity. So all of a sudden, there in the parking lot is this deuce and a half, and out of the back come these 2 soldiers in full combat gear, including their weapons. They come into the dorm, and they were MPs, and they had the MP on. They come into the dorm. They go up to Bob's dorm room. Now, again, these guys had been drinking, so they weren't too coherent. And one of them takes the butt of his gun and actually puts a hole in the door. And after he's done, you can see where the stock had gone into the door. And Bob, we don't know what's going on. You see these soldiers coming through. Bob's terrified. They haul him out and put him in the back of the truck. And they start away. Now, the guy who was he was the sarge, the guy driving, who was the instigator of all this, he didn't get out of the truck. So we didn't know who these 2 characters were, only that they had weapons and they were in combat gear. So they put him in the back of the truck, and they start out of the campus. It seems that the driver wasn't really too aware of what was happening, because he ended up going through the flower bed, taking down some small trees, just drove over everything. And when he got to the end of the street, by that time someone had called the cops. And you had the police there, and they stopped him, and it was all a prank. But Bob, the fellow that they were after, he was as white as the new snow. I'm telling you, he was scared, and it was all a prank. But these guys were about to get out, so they didn't really care. Now, I understand that the Sarge got busted for that. He didn't serve any time. He was discharged, but they could have dishonorably discharged him for stealing a truck, but they didn't. So that was the interesting thing, because they can still visualize these 2 guys jumping out of the back of a truck in their combat gear, helmets, the rifles, the whole bit, and coming in, and then they weren't, as MPs, they were accustomed to being in charge. So if you tried to ask them questions and all that, they just push right past you. But yeah, it ends up that whoever, I don't remember who the fellow was that put the hole in the door, he had to pay for a new door. So that cost him a few bucks, but that was a very interesting event because you're right. Again, this is right after the Tet Offensive. And so, the military was quite prominent. And, for a truck to come in and these MPs to come out and pull somebody out of the dorm, it didn't seem like a prank at the time. There seemed to be a whole lot more to it. But that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.